All right. Well, welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a Salesforce MVP and work for Seven Summits. I'm joined today by one of fearless co-leaders, Jackie Travieso. Jackie, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. So glad that you could make it on this Friday just before the crazy holiday travel kicks off and all of that if you happen to be traveling anywhere. Glad to have you with us. We've got some first timers on the line and some old hats. So we're glad to have everyone with us. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. All right. Well, as we do with all MVP Office Hours calls, we like to kick it off with just some upcoming community events that you'll find in the ecosystem. So there's some links up there for some of the Salesforce events, but there are lots of upcoming Dreaming events to get on your calendar. So Cactus Force, that's a brand new one, huh, Jackie?
That is brand new
Okay.
as of this morning. I saw the announcement, and that one is geared towards developers and Salesforce architects.
Oh, wow.
And when I
Okay.
checked this morning, the fee for that was $25. And I
Well,
think that's
that's
the least expensive I've seen besides free. So I would check that out if you're in the developer world, if you're interested in getting into the developer world, or heading down the architect path. I think this would be a good community event.
awesome.
Yeah,
No, that's
that's this is Pat. I'm going to be speaking at Cactus Force, and uh, notwithstanding me, there are some great speakers there. Greg Ruiz is going to be there, and uh, Zane Turner is going to be there speaking. So a lot of great speakers. You can check it out at cactusforce.com.
That's great. Well, is that your first speaking event, Pat?
Uh, it is.
Oh, congratulations.
awesome. Yeah, it's
That's
great.
great. That's reason enough to go right there.
There you go. Yeah,
Well,
so no,
and
that's great.
and Phoenix in January. Okay.
And yes, yes. Hopefully, all the scorpions are hiding. Not the Scorpios. We love the Scorpios, just not the scorpions.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, no, that sounds like a great event. And as you can see, there are a lot more coming up. March heavy with several Dream-ins there, different community events as well as then April into June. So definitely check those out. Always encourage you guys to go to those if you can. Great events put on by awesome people. All right. So if we move to the next slide here.
Let's see if I can get my. Come on. There we go.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Let me go ahead and talk to
Yeah,
this
go
one,
for it.
Jared, since I kind of like slid this one in on you. There is a series of developer webinars called Path to Code. So if you are looking to get into coding, I think that these are going to be some really great episodes. The first one is January 2nd, and Jitendra is going to be leading this particular one. This is a 25-week free course. It takes place in the evening, so post-work, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and they will be recorded. You can also go to their website. I've got a bit.ly at the bottom of this slide to check out some of the previous content that they've done, and then to also register for this particular Path to Code. But I think that they're going to have some really great content. I don't know how they're going to do this 25 straight weeks, but I think it's pretty fantastic. I think I'm going to sign up for this one.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So little quick information here about MVP Office Hours. Recap for those of you who've been on before, new for those new to the call. We hold this call the first and third Friday of every month. So our next call will be on the 4th of January in the new year. So look forward to kicking off the new year with everybody. Then with the registration, we've made it easy for you. So if you just bookmark that bit.ly link there, it'll always be updated after every call with the next session, so you can sign up right away there. And really the way we run this call is it's an open Q&A discussion, right? So, and we're all here to as the hashtag says, problem solve together. So no matter if you're an MVP, if you're newer, it doesn't matter, right? Share your experiences to try to help solve the issue at hand. we'll record resources from the chat into the document and share that out. And then we record this, so we'll post it out to the community, to Twitter, and we also upload this to YouTube and the YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. And all we ask, because this is open Q&A, is just mute your lines so that we can hear the questions and answers clearly. If you want to answer a question, there's a couple ways of doing that, right? If we have dead space, we'll ask people to speak up. Otherwise, raise your hand in the web meeting, and we'll get to you as soon as we can on that. And yeah, I think I talked about everything else. If we get down to it, we can allow you to share your screen and take a look at what's going on.
Okay, with that, you've got one
Yeah,
more, Jared. Go
yeah,
ahead.
one more here. Yeah, so just again, a reminder, we have a site, mvpofficehours.info. This gives you all the information you need about MVP office hours, the different office hours groups that are held, and how you can participate in those groups. It also allows you to subscribe to an email list. So if you want to receive just an email reminder to sign up for these sessions, you can sign up there, right? And we'll send you the registration link each time. And it also gives you, information around our YouTube channel, Twitter account, etc. All right, so with that all being said, let's go ahead and we'll kick off the call. Who wants to be the first question? And just go ahead and speak up.
Don't be afraid to ask any question that you might think is elementary, because we all come to this call with different experiences. And I'm looking at our list of participants, and we've got a great group of MVPs from across the US and maybe beyond who can share their experience. So
I'll chime in here. Question about Lightning Web Components. I know we're about to hear a whole lot more about this. It was just announced. I was not a web developer before. My training was all in Lightning and Aura, and on Trailhead and what have you. So that's my only context for development. So I'd love to hear sort of the background or context for what this really means, and basically if I'm going to have to learn a different approach, or if I'm just interested in first impressions.
do we have some experienced Lightning component users on the line? Lightning Web Components?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in. This is Jared. So I'm not, disclaimer, right? I'm not a developer by any stretch, but I will say that, I was in a partner workshop the other day, and I heard a little bit about this. And, the way I understand it, right, is it opens up a lot of different avenues. And I just posted a link into the chat there that kind of gives you good background on the why, right? And really, as I understand it, it's just about leveraging all of the web standards that have been done within the last 5 years, and bringing those into the Aura framework, or the Lightning framework, right? And allowing developers who may not know Aura and Lightning to come in and also build out Lightning components. And in general, right, it's just going to expand the capabilities that we have within Lightning components today, as far as capabilities and whatnot. So that article provides a really good, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but that one provides a good overview of why and what it really does for
So I read that article, but I guess it makes the assumption that, you'll understand why it's such a great thing, because most of you already we're developing that in this before Aura. So is it that they're opening it up to other development styles, or I don't even isn't sort of platforms, but JavaScript approaches to web development?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's where, as far as the actual, pieces of it, right? I think the way I understand it, right, is it's just opening up those additional, web standards, methods, you
Got
name it, right? Additional coding languages to be used within a Lightning component. So, and
Okay.
then because you'll still have Aura components, right? You still have that piece, but now you've got the Lightning web components.
Got it. Okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
This is Stuart. My hope is as a budding non-coder. I shouldn't say that. I've coded. I don't know what to call myself. I'm an in-betweener. I'm a wishy-washy. But not having the background, I'm going to take a JavaScript class on February 18th and learn how to do JavaScript. Like I did HTML and some CSS and stuff like that, so I know about ancient web development, but I don't know about modern day web development. So hopefully I'll learn about that. But in listening and reading about what the changes to the web components is that it'll make somebody like me perhaps easier to understand what is going on here with the Salesforce web components, because they're opening it up to be, instead of being a closed framework, to being an open framework, so that as I'm learning JavaScript, I can use the Salesforce Lightning web components framework that they have as well. It's more open. It's more with the rest of the world as far as what JavaScript is being used in the world, and not just using the Aura. Am I saying that word right? The Aura frameworks that the current web gurus understand today. So that I'm hoping that I'm saying this right. That newbies like me can get into this JavaScript world and make sense, and then build components for our orgs that actually work. And I totally could be wrong by this. This is just based on what I'm reading, what I'm trying to understand on what Salesforce has given out so far.
All right, cool.
Great, thank you, Stuart. Anyone else have a question?
I have heard, it's Pat again, sorry, don't mean to dominate it, but I work by myself, so when I get a chance to ask questions, I do. I've heard several places Salesforce is referring to like the last week in January as Developers Week, but I don't know what that means. Have you heard that?
Oh, so this started a couple of years ago, where they would dedicate a week, and they would call it Developers Week, and it can happen anywhere from, I think it was mid-January or last week of January into February. So it'll be an event put on by your developer community group leaders, probably in conjunction with maybe even user group or admin leaders, community group leaders. And when I participated in it, it was sit down and here's some instructions, and let's talk about this, and we'll build something. And we'll work through, at the time for me, it was the very beginning of Lightning, I believe. So it's gonna, hopefully it'll be a hands-on experience where people can kind of get in and do some exercises together and work through things. You should be able to find information if your local group is doing one on, let's go back here on the slides for a second, because I've got the link here.
On the Trailblazer community. Yeah, I mean, I know that the group is doing one. I just don't, it's a developer group, so I'm not sure what makes that different. Every week is developer week at the developer group.
That's true. It's just they're highlighting. So you know how they do the global gatherings, and it's around a specific topic. usually
Yeah.
Dreamforce or something that is worldwide. So this
Yeah.
is their opportunity to do a worldwide focus on developers and promote the developers in the community and give you some projects, and we work together, and it's a community event, I
Cool.
guess. Small, local or regional. But you can go to the success.salesforce.com/featured events or featured groups, excuse me, and see if anyone in your local area has signed up to host a developer week. So it's focused. It's kind of like a user group meeting, but it's a developer group meeting, and it's focused on some specific content. That's a good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Okay, who else has a question?
Hi, excuse me. This is Sarah, and I have a question about custom metadata types. I was working through the trail on Trailhead about the relationships, custom metadata type relationships, and it's talking about mapping objects to each other so that you can restrict, say you're creating sort of a junction object, you can restrict the choices in the junction object based on custom metadata, but I couldn't figure out how to do that restriction part. So I was wondering if anybody has done that trail and has some more insight about the next level of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Who do we have on the line that plays in the custom metadata types arena?
I've done some, but I haven't used it to restrict a pick list or that application.
Or if you knew sort of about the relationships between, so it's sort of like mapping, let's say the example in Trailhead was mapping vacation packages based on support level. So if you had, a bronze support level, you can only do easy vacations. And those are fields on two different objects. And then you're sort of using this junction object that's referring to the metadata through metadata relationships. But I didn't quite understand how it all worked together. I could set it all up, but then I didn't know what it did.
Okay. I've been there. I've done those trails.
Exactly.
Is that anyone's bailiwick that's on the line?
If not, I can keep searching, but exploring.
Can you hear me, Jackie?
Yes, now I can.
Victory! So, this is Christy Guzman. I haven't played, I don't think, as much with the metadata type piece, but I feel like it allows you to reference the values almost like global pick lists. But I could be wrong because now I'm getting into the weeds of it, and I originally heard custom metadata types and got real excited because I use them, but I don't know if I've really related them to objects like in your scenario. So in the end, maybe I don't have an answer, and I'll go back on mute. Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Christy.
But now I'm going to go down a Google rabbit hole and learn about them.
And then she's going to get back to us and share anything that she finds, I bet.
Yeah, the way that I have used them is in a managed package. It's a way of sticking sort of data into a managed package when you normally can't do that. Because you can create the custom metadata type, and then you can create custom metadata records that will be packaged up.
Right. Yeah, and I've definitely done it to do sort of a lookup almost of in Flow, look up the custom metadata and then pull a different field from it. But I've just never hadn't done it in the way that it happened in this trail, and so I was confused about that. They're really cool, though. I love custom metadata types. So, all right. Well, if anybody finds anything, I'd be eager to hear about it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Who's next?
Well, Jackie, I got a question from an email, and it looks like she's on the call. And is it Angel? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hi.
Hey, do you want me to read your question, or do you want to go ahead and just state it for everyone?
No, sure. I
am a new user, so just started about 4 weeks ago. So I have a twofold question. First is, and I'm not sure if this is the correct form, but I'm looking for a really solid learning pathway as I'm self-teaching the system to myself. Would be the first question for someone to possibly point me in the right direction. And then the real question of today is there a way to build as our company, when we turn an opportunity definite, to set up auto traces or automatic activities that are assigned to particular people within the company, instead of them being manually pulled from the drop-down screen. And I started to dive into the process builder, but I'm not sure if I'm going down the right pathway for that as well.
Can I take this one?
Yes.
Okay, so first off, as far as self-teaching, my recommendation, start with Trailhead, but be aware of the fact that it literally is that. It is the beginning of a journey. It is not your entire journey. Some trails really just scratch the surface. When you get into super badges, that's the really good stuff, where it's like, when you find yourself passing super badges, that's when you know, like, you've definitely built up some chops. For me, on the job was where I did most of my learning. I learned from the community. I Google my way to success. I'm not the sort of person who creates obstacles. I remove obstacles. So the only way that I learn something new is when I have a problem to solve. So if you're doing this for a living, you are set up for success, and the community is going to have your back. Never hesitate to post a question on the success community. Try to find the right group. So for example, for flows and stuff, there's automation. There's a workflow automation. And then there's, I forget what it's called, Automation Hour or something like that, Workflow Automation Hour. There's a couple of different groups that specialize on clicks not code automation. So as you're working through this, you're going to want to go to those groups, see what people are talking about, post your questions there. Because, you know, Trailhead's going to tell you where to start to figure out how to solve these riddles. But as you get into the nitty gritty of it and the nuances, it might not have all the information you need. Next off, what you're describing is absolutely possible with Process Builder, with Flow. You might even be able to do it with workflow rules. I think workflow, and you can also, there's a number of different ways that you can do it. But these sort of tools are really great for, like, I mean, I build Rube Goldberg devices, like, you know, the opportunity gets marked prospecting, and, you know, the toaster pops up, scares the hamster who runs into the ladder, etc. But for really simple stuff, like, we have a system of business rules where, based on these criteria, we want to assign it to this person or that person or that person or whatever. Yes, you can definitely do this with flows and process builders. If the business rules are complex, I recommend using a process builder to call a flow. And one of the biggest gotchas when you get started with that is you have to pass the ID of the record you're talking about from the process builder to the flow. And you can find more about this on Trailhead, or you can email me at letsPlaySalesforce@gmail. But what screwed me up really bad at first was, I said, okay, well, I've got this process builder that whenever this thing happens to an opportunity, I want to go and fire off this automation. And it looked like everything was working, but I couldn't tell, like, nothing was actually happening. And that's because the flow didn't know what opportunity I was talking about. And the process builder has to pass this information to the flow by creating a variable and setting it to input output. The other thing that I want to caution you on is avoid hard coding usernames into your flows, because businesses grow, businesses change, and nobody's going to have that job forever. So I would recommend more of an approach of find the particular person who's in this role, or the opportunity owner's manager, or the team leader, or something like that, where it's more generic and the system can narrow that down to the right user that you want to assign these tasks to. Avoid hard coding, like, this one goes to Bob and this one goes to Sally. Never do that kind of stuff, because even if you say, okay, well, that's fine, I can maintain this list of people, and as it changes, I can do that. Well, what about always try to think about who's going to have to inherit your architecture if the business is still using this 5 years from now, and you're not in that role anymore and the business has grown, someone's going to have to come along and modify what you've made. So always try to have that generified approach when building this. But yeah, so the short answer, totally possible with flows and process builders. That's too much.
This is why. So this is why I love these office hour calls, because in Salesforce there's a dozen different ways to do it, and Pete's right. You can do it with Process Builder and Flows. However, I would also suggest, this is Stuart, sorry. I would also suggest that you look at another trail on Trailhead, and that is territory management. And look at your business process, because you can do custom territory management. What I heard you talking about was, yeah, maybe your territories aren't like physical territories, but you can create territory management by using territories that don't actually have physical bounds. They could be territories based on other things. And territory management is something that's already built in Salesforce, so you don't have to create your own process builders and workflows. You can just use what's out of the box there in Salesforce. And there are 4 or 5 Trailhead trails that'll walk you through what it is, what it does and doesn't do, and how to set it up. And that might also be a way to solve the problem that you're having.
And just to be third time's a charm, chimer inner, I think when I first heard you talking, the way my brain goes is, okay, do they always want the task to be created? Is it always to one person? Sometimes on Sundays, does it go to Sally instead because reasons, right? So before you even dig into some of the stuff that you're hearing, I would encourage you to make sure that you understand exactly what needs to happen and the eccentricities of those things, right? Because it's always until it's not, right? So
yes.
And then that's kind of, I think, to what Pete was saying, right? Where they might be like, oh yeah, it always goes to Bob, but then like, hey, he's gonna get promoted or a new job, right? So first thinking about really what you need to have happen, and then kind of how you can be nice to future you to make it more dynamic so that you don't have to keep going at it. So one good example, just for fun throwback, is custom metadata types. So we have certain, or custom settings, depending. But for example, I have a default user that I use for various processes where if we don't find an owner, that's who it goes to. And that's set in a custom setting. So that way, if I need to edit it, I can edit it in one place, and it's going to impact all the things that reference it, right? So that way I don't have to think about or watch what breaks when I accidentally deactivate a user. Not like I've ever done that before. It's fine. So like I say, thinking about really mapping out, and you are definitely on the right track with Process Builder, but I think, again, making sure you get what the trigger is and what the different paths you want to go down are, and then Trailhead can definitely help you once you know kind of where you want to get to.
I'll chime in. One thing that Trailhead doesn't emphasize enough is when you're creating any flow or any process, there's a little description field there. Same thing with custom fields and that sort of thing. There's a description field that's not mandatory, but you should assume that it is mandatory. And you're documenting this for yourself as much as anything else, because a month from now, when you've got 3 or 4 other processes that you've written and the names are all similar, that description will really save you a lot of pain.
And
thank you for that.
And of course, you know, Christy's right that you always have to ask, what next? So even if that person gets the account or whatever assigned to them, who else needs to see that? What else needs to happen? What next after that? Is always the what, the why. Always you have to ask a lot of questions beyond just the what does this process do?
And I'll throw one more thing in there just for consideration when you're talking about tasks. If there's a group of tasks that need to be created based on a previous task being completed, there is an App Exchange package, and I'm looking for it right now. I want to say it's called Action Plans. I'm putting a little asterisk, a virtual asterisk.
That sounds right.
Okay, I'm not sure how it works with Lightning, but that's something, and it's, the last time I used it, it was free. And
Okay.
it's,
And that is for a group of tasks that need to be assigned?
yeah, they can be assigned. And then it will trigger new tasks. So let's say you have a standard set of these 5 tasks need to happen in this particular order as the previous task is completed. So it does all of the heavy lifting for you, and you just build it out in this particular app. So you don't have to build all of the process builders. It's got all of the features and functionalities right there for you. And you can see the progression and the grouping.
Okay. So then I guess between action plans, process builder, or territory management, which of the 3 would you suggest for a novice to start?
That's going to go back to Christy's recommendation of what are the requirements. Is it just, you're just doing one thing? Are you doing a multitude of things? So my recommendation is always to map it out on a piece of paper, whiteboard, or elements.cloud, which is, so you can draw your boxes in your yes, no logic. And then that helps you work as a really good BA to ask the questions, the what if this, because you're not going to always get the what ifs. You're going to have to pull that stuff out of people.
Well, and I think too, just because sometimes when you get all of us who like this is our favorite thing to do, right? We can get really in the weeds with things, right? So like I know that sometimes in process builder you can't make a task public, right? And like weird things about it. But really, if you step back, like what you're doing is or looking to do, if you're looking at something happens on an opportunity and needs to create a task for a person, that's like total straight up process builder potential, right? But then again, if you're starting to get that complexity of, well, in each country there's a different person it needs to go to, or the due date is longer if it's in this opportunity record type, right? Then that's when, you know, we get nerdy and excited because this is what we do. But I don't want to make it like give you too many options because we're thinking of the big, hairy, scary part. So that's why I kind of say, like, if it's pretty straightforward, you know, even if what we're saying about custom settings and metadata types and all that stuff, like if to meet your requirement today, every single time it closes, it goes to Bob, then like, and you can get it to go to Bob, then maybe you hard code Bob for now, right? But just keeping in mind, like I said, like future use things, and then next time come back and we can keep talking about it for forever because clearly we get excited.
One more thing to add on, watch out that, and for most of us this is a great thing, but Flow is getting a completely new UI in the Spring 19 release. It's currently in pre-release right now. You'll see it in your sandbox in the beginning of January. You'll see it in production in February. But as you start to, if you decide to go down the Flow path and as you start to dig in, just be aware that it's getting a full reskin, and that the way that if you get accustomed to doing it one way in the old Flash player builder, it's going to be completely different in like a month and a half. So I would recommend, there's a lot of content, like Salesforce Ben has covered it, Rakesh Gupta or Automation Champions covered it. So check out the new Flow Builder in Spring 19 before you get too far in, because what you see in production today and what you see in your sandbox today, it's going away very soon.
Okay. Thanks.
And Peter, you just referenced, excuse me, Atul Gupta, right?
Rakesh, Automation Champion. Some places it says Rakesh Gupta, some places it says Rakesh Kumar. He's Automation Champion to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
Automation Champion, got that. Got it right here. All right. Super, that was a great discussion.
Yeah, love it. All right, awesome. Let's move to D. You posted a question in the chat while that was going on. So, new to the console app and console record page layouts, would love to learn how to show records related to an accounts related object So for example, custom object called stuff related to a custom object called group that's related to the account. So 2 objects down. Is there a way to show a filtered list of all the stuff records by a date field on the console? And then how do you show report or dashboard or expanded highlight panels with more fields? Any other things you want to add to that, Dee?
Yeah, I have so many questions about console. First, I guess from the basics of creating the console app and then creating the record pages. So if I wanted to pull in the related objects, do I have to create a special page for every object I want to add to the console app? I don't know. It's like, I'm like really confused about what's the order of steps that I should take and what I should, if there's anything I need to configure in order for it to show up correctly on the console app.
Can I ask you, are you talking about Lightning or Classic?
That's my question too.
That's also something that I wanted to ask because I saw that that the Classic version seems to have a lot more features, but the org that I'm in is Lightning, so I don't know. It looks like the Lightning console has some limitations as well, so I wanted to ask for your advice on that as well.
Well, and forward-looking statement. Spring. Am I saying this right? Spring 19. I don't know the numbers. There will be things added. There's always things added and new features. So look forward. Always look forward. That being said, I'm going to shut up because I'm just starting to play with console in Lightning. So I'll be quiet now.
Thank you.
Has anyone used console in Lightning? Because I haven't either.
Yeah, I have. I mean, so certainly, right there. Well, let's take a step back here. So first of all, when you set up the console app, right, you've got to set the navigation items, right, which are essentially the objects that you want to show within that console. So for your example, right, if you have this object stuff, right, that's 2 objects off of an account, you need to, that has to have a tab so you can add it to the console. So once you add it to the console, then you can change the navigation rules. So there's under the app settings, it's called navigation rules, right? And then you basically would select that object, right? And you would say, open that as either its own tab or a sub tab. Like for example, right, I could open, the classic examples like contacts in an account, right? I would want to open the contact as a sub tab of the account. So that's where you would be able to select what you want to open as a sub tab of, depending upon the relationships that are on there, or on that object. So does that help?
Yes, it definitely helps. I was wondering, like, so if I add all those related objects as like sub-tabs, the various sub-tabs, but I actually wanted to show, I want to show the account and then all these, I don't know if there's a way to add components to show like those related lists on the side in the page layout. How does that look like how would that look like on a console in the app? Like when I pull up the account and then I have the Lightning console page and I'm adding all these components that I want to show the related items for. I was having trouble trying to visualize what that would look like, and I played with it a little bit, but had the limitation of not being able to pull in the second object down.
Yeah, I think that was the first, when I read your question, that was the thing. I was like, I can see visually in my mind how it would work to one, but I don't know about going 2 layers deep.
We use console apps and Lightning at my org, and I haven't tried this, but it might be possible if you did a report, like a custom report type that had the account and then the first child object and then the second child object, and then somehow there might be a Lightning component that displays a report on a record page, but I don't know if there is one for sure. So
Okay.
maybe you could write a custom component that you can then drop onto anywhere on the record page. But I don't know of a component that does that off the top of my head, but you certainly could do it in a report.
Okay, yeah, I did try to pull a report on it, and a report would and a dashboard would be awesome, except that the users want to see, they want to be able to like type and filter their own account name that they want to search and have all that related information pull up, which you can add a filter for manually by listing out the accounts. But we currently don't have that input field type of filtering on dashboards. Otherwise a dashboard would be perfect. It's like in the reports. So yeah, I'm trying to check to see if there are other options for pulling in. So I thought maybe I'll look at consoles, but there seems to be some limitation here too.
Well, if you have the licenses, Einstein Analytics embedded dashboards can be filtered to the context of a record that's being displayed.
Yeah.
We can also add much easier to use filters. And if you've ever built with Einstein Analytics and added a filter to a dashboard, and then you go back to regular dashboards where you have to hard code in every possible value, I'll never.
Yeah,
But
I think
the
cost.
the downside with that, everybody's got to have a license, and you have to have somebody who specializes in that skill set.
Dee, what you had just mentioned of your use case of what your users wanted to see was an example that they actually did at Dreamforce in the mini hacks area. One of the hacks was to build kind of a mini search right on the page to find items, and that was their way of getting people to win mascots and stuff like that. And so I know that those sort of things are doable, but if you have to build them through building your own web components or Lightning components, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if those sort of things are available to add as components on the console page, or if you have to actually build them in Lightning. It's something worth looking up, and I wonder. I'll search on Trailhead and see if there's things that we can replicate through Trailhead.
Okay.
But I know I struggled when I was at Dreamforce. I tried to go through some of those mini hacks, and I struggled. That was one of those cases that you just kind of went through.
That is really interesting. That sounds really cool. Okay, yeah, I'll have to do some searching too. Thank you for the tip.
Christy, I see that you made note in the chat that you have an example of the CMDT relationships to each other. Is that something that you'd like to share your screen to show?
I can. I actually, I will post I started a Twitter Ask Force conversation because there's 3 different reasons or types of relationships. And so linking to another custom metadata type, I think I have an example of, but I don't think that was the question. And I can't wrap my brain exactly around why you would want to link to a specific object or field from a custom metadata type. But if you want to see relationships to each other, I'm happy to share that if that's helpful.
Okay, and I think that original question was that from Sarah? Sarah?
It's from,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sarah, is that something that would be helpful to you? Because we can certainly do a screen share.
Sure. I mean, I see your Twitter post, so great. I hope people chime in there too. But yeah, whatever you have to share would be useful, I'm sure.
Okay, so I am going to pause share on my side, and I think Christy, you can go ahead and click share button on your side.
Thinking about it, it still thinks you're sharing. When I try and click share, it says I cannot start while the other participant is sharing.
Yeah, Jackie, you'll have to stop sharing and then let her share.
Okay, let me see here. Hold on. Oh, the big red button that actually says stop share. There you go.
So let's see if I can pick the right monitor. So we have a partner community, well, two actually that are, well, we have some communities. And so, but we're not making things available in all countries at all times. So we've got, for anybody who's not familiar with custom metadata types at all, these are basically special kinds of objects so that you can store values that you're referencing either from formulas or in our case from code for custom components. So you can see that we have the country records, and then we also have language and state province. And so both of those are going to be children records. So the key thing to start setting up custom metadata types is to realize you're creating the type of field for the thing you want when you create the record, and then I can manage my languages. So you can see that we have, like for example, separate English records because one is associated to the US country and one is associated to Canada. And so then we can do certain things. I guess maybe this is an example that I didn't realize I had of how, so these email templates, when we're doing, again, automated reminders from a code perspective, if I needed to define which one goes per country or per language, then those are your custom metadata type to custom metadata type relationships. So again, I'm not entirely sure. So that makes sense to me. Hopefully it makes sense to someone else, right? That we've got, I've got different things about a country that I store, and then I've got those child kind of related custom metadata type records with whatever values I set for them, so that when you go to our community, you only see the countries we have defined, and once you pick your country, you only see the languages that we have defined. And to someone else's question earlier, this is the kind of stuff where I might reference this icon in a lot of places. So if the US flag changes or I need a different file type, I can come and add a different file extension, and then it would just reference out to all the different places. So those are some fun things about custom metadata types. Not the whole answer, but I'm happy to answer any other questions people have since I'm here in my sandbox.
Yeah, I sort of wonder if what the entity definitions are doing is instead of referencing a field on another custom metadata type, they're referencing a field on the object. So it's sort of like what you're doing with the dependent between two custom metadata types, but instead it's object to custom metadata type, but it's not on the object side.
But so what's interesting is, I think, so when I go to create one, right, I have the choice here, but I don't know, like I think release is an object, obviously not one I'm using, or I would sort of know better, but these are other custom metadata types. So I don't have one called release. Yes, I do. So all of them are custom metadata types. So I don't even get...
Except entity definition at the bottom there. I think is where you would do the object.
All right. Well, then let's do it. Why not? We're not going to break anything.
I think. From what
That
I
makes
remember
sense,
from the
'cause
trailhead.
I don't have one called that, so that's good progress.
But again, I haven't fully grasped this yet. So
Right. We're going to reinforce what somebody said earlier. Why did you do this thing? Okay. So yeah, but like then I just add it.
I
as a
think
thing?
then you create one that like defines which object it is. I'm not sure.
Ooh, okay. So then I get all kinds of fun stuff in here. So if I was to say, right, that this relates to a learning plan, that's as far as it goes. I don't know why that's valuable to me.
So would
Yeah,
you
that's the part I
potentially see this
couldn't
as a
figure out.
related list on a learning plan? Because it was saying child relationship name, so I would expect that perhaps now on learning plan you could go to a learning plan page layout, add this as a related list.
Well, I have one way to find out.
Huh.
I do have a learning plan.
You need to add it to the layout though.
Yes, Isn't it weird to see how other people navigate? I call it state something, right?
My favorite part of this is that, it really kind of identifies how do you learn, by trying to teach somebody else something. So when somebody else says, well, how do I do that? It's pretty close to what you do. You go, well, I don't know. And then you go and learn something that you wouldn't have learned otherwise.
So it's not in there. I'm intrigued. I almost can see like kind of the advantage of maybe it's like from a query perspective, like go find the records that I use for learning plans, like to create a subset maybe of your metadata type records within this.
That definitely could be, because I know what it was saying is, restrict certain values to a certain, depending on a different value, but maybe it's
But
more
then
like in the
am I picking the parent value in like a flow or in like a custom component or something that then it would go query the underlying children results based on my like dependent pick list wise, right? Like how do I pick the like I'm gonna have to go do
in the
this
trail you set up both a parent and a child entity definition, so maybe it's like within the custom metadata type itself, but that's the part I didn't understand. So but it seems like it's more something in the custom metadata type world that it's doing for itself. That's interesting.
Well, for anyone who wants to follow along in our super exciting discovery, I tagged the MVP Office Hours Twitter as well as Sarah and I, so hopefully we can get some hashtag Ask Course answers and see what people do.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that, Christy.
Yeah. I will maybe stop.
And it looks like, as I'm sharing my screen, it looks like, Rob, you have a question? Do you want to speak to it? You might have to unmute yourself. See if I can unmute you.
Unmute me. There we
There
go.
you go.
Thanks.
Awesome.
It's going to take more than 6 minutes, Jackie, and I can wait. Not a big deal. Maybe someone's got something quicker, but it's more important than me.
Completely up to you. We can take a stab at it. We can do part A, part B.
Let's pass.
Does anybody else have a question or a topic or a subject?
I got something I'd like to blurt out really quickly.
Go ahead.
Flying the analytics flag. So one thing that's kept a lot of people out of the Einstein analytics space has been its cost. And I did want to let everybody know about the new EA Plus license. So this basically is the price of what the analytics license used to be, but you now also get Einstein Discovery, which used to be extremely expensive, and now it's just included. You also get Einstein Insights, which allows you to run predictive and descriptive analytics on standard reports in Lightning, which is a really cool feature in and of itself. The Einstein Discovery and Analytics have a combined new one UI as of Winter 19, and so we no longer have to do this tricky export to move data sets back and forth between the two. We're also getting things like Prediction Builder, Next Best Action, and a lot of this new stuff that's got Einstein in the name. You get all, if it's an add-on, it's probably included with that Analytics Plus. There's also going to be a program coming out where you can get trial licenses for a month in your sandbox. I believe it might be prod. This isn't live yet, but where you could get trial license in your org without having to go to your AE and basically say, please, please, please give us the licenses. You'll be able to just spin that up yourself. And a ton of new features coming out that are all going to be kind of folded into this license. The price tag is definitely coming down. The sales analytics, which is basically 15 pre-built dashboards that you have a wizard that you walk through, and it's really great for opportunity pipeline management, anything Sales Cloud. This used to be a standalone license, and now it is included in Sales Cloud Einstein, which is significantly less than that license used to be. And you also get Einstein, I believe, activity tracking and Salesforce Inbox, which I'm not 100% sure what that is. But if price was one of the reasons that you were holding off from pursuing this, you might want to have a conversation with your AE about the EA Plus license. End of rant.
Thank you for that. I'll see if I can find maybe a blog or something and post it so that we get all of the things that you just shared, because I certainly did not catch all of that, but that sounds good. Right.
I'll find a link for you.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? I think we've got, 2 minutes left?
Yeah.
Has anyone used SDocs?
I have.
Okay, I'll be calling you.
Yeah. I think, Stuart.
I can't tell from that tone if that's a good thing.
Well, I'm pretty well versed with DrawLoop, and I need to do a couple of comparisons, and just the initial run through that I've done, I'm like, oh, where's this? Where's this? How do you do this? So
it looks like Sarah has used the free version of SDocs. I tried to use the free version of SDocs, and I failed miserably, making me have more imposter syndrome than I needed. So I uninstalled it. I couldn't take it. But my co-leader in the Minnesota group, Ben Balpew, has used it. He told me he's used it, and he actually was very successful with it. So there's mixed opinions on that product. So I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't pull a Stu and give up.
Yeah, I'd say I didn't fail, but I also wasn't wildly successful. So
okay.
I did manage to get one PDF that we actually used.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess my initial question is, do you start with like a Word doc and then it turns into a PDF when they click send or generate or whatever the button's called?
It's more like building a template in Salesforce.
Yeah, it's like building HTML code.
Yeah.
A script, and then it formats it into a script that spits out a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
It was crazy, but I think it works. I don't know.
Yeah, if you can fight with your HTML enough to get it to do what you want, then you're good. But that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Fighting for something that's free doesn't sound fun. Okay.
If I remember, there's like a builder, right? And but the styling of it is not awesome.
Yeah, I resorted to switching over to the code version and just doing as much HTML as I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But just in that 2 minutes, you all have helped me immensely and saved me, I think, a lot of time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
All right. You know what? That actually brings us to the end of our hour straight up. I appreciate everyone joining in. Thank you for our first-time callers. Thank you to the other MVPs who are on the line and our community contributors, because as we heard, taught by community or community, #community taught is awesome. Awesome. And the new hashtag that Christy gave us. What was it? Remember Future You. So I like that. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. Thank you again for joining us. Watch the Twitter sphere for the upcoming 1st and 3rd for January 2019. I hope you all have a great holiday or multiple holidays and have a safe new year. We'll see you in 2019.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.